A black family is thrown out of their apartment by a racist landlord, only for him to discover they've bought the entire building. What happens next will turn his world upside down. Subscribe to see how justice is served and comment where you're watching from. It was a sunny afternoon in Atlanta, Georgia, and the sound of children playing echoed through the courtyard of a quiet apartment complex. The building wasn't fancy, but it was home to several hard-working families. Among them was the Johnson family: Marcus, a schoolteacher, his wife, Tanya, a nurse, and their 2 young children, Malik and Ava. They had lived there for 3 years, always paying rent on time and keeping to themselves. Today, though, things were different. The landlord, a middle-aged man named Richard Hayes, stormed into the courtyard, his face red with anger. Richard had a reputation for being difficult, but lately, his behavior had taken a darker turn. He had been targeting the Johnsons with unreasonable demands and constant inspections, and now, it seemed he was ready to take things further. Richard marched up to the Johnsons' door and banged on it with his fist. Tanya opened the door cautiously, her expression calm but wary. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hayes. Is there a problem?" she asked politely. Richard didn't bother with pleasantries. "You people have 2 weeks to pack up and leave," he said bluntly. "I've decided to terminate your lease." Tanya's eyes widened in shock. "Terminate our lease? On what grounds? We've always paid our rent on time." Richard smirked. "I don't need a reason. This is my property, and I can do what I want. Besides, I've had complaints about your family. Noise, trash, disturbing the neighbors." Tanya's jaw tightened. She knew the accusations were false. Her family was quiet and respectful, and their neighbors had never had any issues with them. "That's not true, and you know it," she said firmly. "We have rights as tenants, and you can't just kick us out without proper notice or a valid reason." Richard's smirk faded, replaced by a scowl. "You think you can tell me how to run my business? You're lucky I let you stay here as long as I have. 2 weeks. That's all you've got." He turned on his heel and walked away, leaving Tanya standing in the doorway, stunned and angry. When Marcus got home that evening, Tanya told him everything. He listened quietly, his expression growing more serious with each word. "This isn't just about us," Marcus said when she finished. "Richard's been treating other families the same way, especially the ones who look like us. He thinks he can get away with it because he owns the building." Tanya nodded. "So what do we do? We can't let him push us around, but we also can't afford to lose our home." Marcus took a deep breath. "We fight back," he said. "But not the way he expects. Let's call my cousin Darius. He's been in real estate for years. Maybe he can help us figure something out." Over the next few days, Marcus and Tanya worked closely with Darius, who had plenty of experience dealing with landlords like Richard. Darius dug into public records and discovered something surprising: the building was up for sale. Richard had been struggling financially and was desperate to sell it quickly. "This is our chance," Darius said during a late-night meeting at the Johnsons' kitchen table. "If we can secure financing, we could buy the building outright. Not only would you keep your home, but you'd also have the power to make real changes for everyone living here." Tanya and Marcus exchanged a hopeful glance. It was a bold plan, but it felt like the right thing to do. They pooled their savings, reached out to friends and family for support, and worked with Darius to secure a loan. It wasn't easy, but within a few weeks, they had the funds they needed. Meanwhile, Richard remained oblivious. He continued to harass the Johnsons and other tenants, confident that he held all the power. But that was about to change. On the day of the sale, Richard arrived at the courthouse to finalize the deal with a prospective buyer. He was grinning from ear to ear, imagining the payday that awaited him. But when he walked into the room, his smile vanished. Sitting at the table, dressed sharply in suits, were Marcus, Tanya, and Darius. Richard's face turned pale. What is this?" he stammered. Darius stood and extended a hand. "Mr. Hayes, I'm Darius Johnson, the new owner of this building. My clients, Marcus and Tanya, will be managing it moving forward." Richard's jaw dropped. "You can't do this. This is my property." Darius smiled calmly. "Not anymore. The sale is final. Congratulations on your retirement, Mr. Hayes." Richard stormed out of the room, fuming. Meanwhile, the Johnsons felt a mix of relief and triumph. They had not only saved their home but also turned the tables on a man who had underestimated them. Back at the apartment complex, the news spread quickly. The Johnsons assured their neighbors that things would be different moving forward. No more harassment, no more unfair treatment, just a safe, welcoming place to call home. For the first time in years, the courtyard was filled with laughter and celebration. And as Marcus and Tanya watched their children play, they knew they had done more than win a battle. They had created a better future for their family and their community. The next morning, Marcus and Tanya gathered all the tenants in the courtyard. They wanted to ensure everyone felt the impact of the change. "We're not just here as owners," Marcus began. "We're here as neighbors. We're going to make sure this building becomes a place where everyone feels safe and respected." The tenants erupted in applause. Many of them had endured Richard's unfair treatment for years and were relieved to see a new chapter begin. One by one, the Johnsons listened to their neighbors' concerns. Leaky pipes, broken locks, and unfair rent hikes, issues that had been ignored for far too long. Tanya took notes, promising to address each problem quickly. "We're not just landlords," she said. "We're part of this community, and we'll do everything we can to make it better." As the weeks went by, changes became evident. Repairs were made, and the building began to look brighter and more welcoming. The Johnsons organized community events, bringing families together and fostering a sense of unity. The courtyard, once a place of tension, became a hub of activity and joy. Meanwhile, Richard's life took a downward turn. Word of his unethical behavior spread, and he found it difficult to secure new properties or tenants. He had lost more than just a building, he had lost his reputation. For the Johnsons, the journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it. They had turned a moment of injustice into an opportunity for change. And as they stood on the balcony of their newly renovated building, watching their neighbors laugh and connect, they knew they had done something truly meaningful. "This is just the beginning," Marcus said, wrapping an arm around Tanya. "We've shown that when you stand up for what's right, you can make a real difference." Tanya smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "And we're not stopping here. This is our home, and we're going to keep building it into something amazing." Together, they looked out over the courtyard, filled with hope for the future and gratitude for the community they had helped create. The Johnsons had proven that even in the face of adversity, resilience and unity could triumph.